Dr. Ali. I think Dr. Ganpati has already laid down the ground for my talk, as he alluded to some of the studies which we'll be discussing in brief. So thyroid disease and fertility, we have to remember that normal thyroid function is essential to maintaining reproductive health and fertility in both men and women, and alterations in thyroid function can impact fertility potential. Undiagnosed or diagnosed thyroid dysfunction can be a cause of subfertility. Now, if we look at how thyroid health plays a role in fertility in women, we have to understand that thyroid hormones, they affect through the the hypothalamic pituitary gonadotropin axis and the SHBG levels, prolactin as well. Thyroid receptors are also present in the ovaries as well as in endometrial cells and trophoblasts. So thyroid hormones do have a role in all phases of reproduction, right from follicle development, ovulation, as well as the implantation process. And as we can see from this very busy slide, which we'll not go into details of, both underfunction of the thyroid as well as hyperfunction of thyroid can lead to changes in ovaries, which impact folliculogenesis and ovulation, in the endometrial tissue, as well as in placenta, where they impact the implantation process, and therefore both can result in subfertility. Studies with thyrotoxicosis, however, are limited. There are studies that suggest that prevalence of infertility in small studies in thyrotoxic women or those with subclinical thyrotoxicosis range from 2 to 5.8%, but some early studies have reported a prevalence of almost 50%. One feature is that thyrotoxic women by and large remain ovulatory, so it's possibly problems with the endometrial health and implantation process that affect fertility, and most of these changes are reversible. Coming to hypothyroidism, overt hypothyroidism, there is no doubt that it is clearly associated with infertility, increased risk of miscarriages, and adverse pregnancy outcomes, something Dr. Ganpati had also alluded to earlier. And levothyroxine clearly improves these outcomes. But what we'll talk about, what is the hot area here is there an association of subclinical hypothyroidism with infertility and also of thyroid autoimmunity. So it's clear that women with overt hypothyroidism should be treated to improve fertility and pregnancy outcomes. Now let's take the question of subclinical hypothyroidism. Is it associated with subfertility and miscarriage risk? We do have retrospective data that's suggesting that TSH is higher in infertile women who have ovulatory dysfunction or unexplained causes of subfertility. And in some studies, the incidence of subclinical hypothyroidism was higher in infertile couples, especially in the women. And there's a fair amount of evidence linking it with adverse pregnancy outcomes. Most studies point that TSH above the upper limit of normal, that is more than 4 or whatever upper limit is population specific, is associated with this risk, but there's a highly debatable evidence in the range of 2.5 to 4 millunits per liter. So does treatment of subclinical hypothyroidism improve risk in the general population? A large retrospective cohort of over 5,000 women suggested that if the pre-treatment TSH was above 4, there was a clear 55% reduction in miscarriages, but when the TSH was between 2.5 to 4, the benefit was not seen. The study, however, did not look at thyroid autoimmunity, which could be a contributing factor. Does subclinical hypothyroidism relate to poor outcomes of assisted reproductive technology? Again, most studies have suggested that when TSH is above 4, there is improvement in good quality embryos, increase in implantation rates, increase in live birth rates, and a reduction in miscarriage with levothyroxine treatment. But the outcomes for women who had TSH below 2.5 or in the range of 2.5 to 4, there wasn't much of a difference. The third aspect we talk of is thyroid autoimmunity. Thyroid autoimmunity has been shown to adversely affect conception. And in fact, there's a higher prevalence of autoimmune thyroid disease in subsets of subfertile women who have ovulatory dysfunction, who have endometriosis, and even premature ovulation failure, premature ovarian failure. And this was associated with lower fertilization and pregnancy rates and higher miscarriage rates on ART treatment. Several mechanisms have been alluded to as to why thyroid autoimmunity increases risk of subfertility. It could be just a marker of a generalized autoimmune state, such that there is an interference, abnormal autoimmune reaction at the maternal-fetal interface. There could be a direct effect of thyroid autoantibodies in the level of the oocyte itself, because it's present in follicular fluid. Thyroid antibodies have been demonstrated, or at the level of endometrium, because that expresses TPO as well as TG antigen. Could be a direct toxic effect of antibodies there. Thyroid autoimmunity could also be a marker of a subtle state of hypothyroidism, or these women may be predisposed, especially when they are undergoing controlled ovarian hyperstimulation during IVF protocols, which causes the estradiol levels to rise very high suddenly, and that could unmask an underlying tendency to develop hypothyroidism. There is also an association of these antibodies with endometriosis, PCOS, and advanced maternal age, which itself are factors which cause subfertility. So does thyroid autoimmunity in euthyroid women impact fertility? The first such relationship, again, was alluded to by Dr. Stignaro-Green, which was already pointed out earlier. And in one large cohort of 31 studies over 12,000 women, it was found that TPO antibody positivity was associated with tripling in the odds of miscarriage in the entire population, those who had recurrent miscarriages or subfertility, or the overall population. And there was also an increased risk of preterm births, but some recent studies do not find this association. What about the thyroid autoimmunity and outcomes of IVF and ICSI? Again, a large meta-analysis published this year itself of 14 studies. They identified whether thyroid autoimmunity affected IVF outcomes, and surprisingly, the authors did not find any difference in clinical pregnancy rate or miscarriage rate in euthyroid women who had thyroid autoantibody positivity versus negative thyroid antibody negative women. Again, whether levothyroxine impacts the outcomes in TPO antibody positive women, there is a lot of conflicting evidence here. Studies published prior to 2017 suggested that there was a relationship with miscarriage rates, such that levothyroxine therapy improved the miscarriage risk, reduced the miscarriage risk in women who were undergoing IVF or ICSI protocols. However, two large randomized trials published in the last 3-4 years. The postal study was a Chinese population of 600 euthyroid women. Levothyroxine did not show any benefit on the IVF outcomes or ICSI outcomes, but this study did not have a thyroid antibody negative group. The tablet study was also referred to by Dr. Ganpati, a very large study of 950 women treated with levothyroxine in a fixed dose of 50 micrograms, and there was no difference in live birth rates or clinical pregnancy rates or miscarriage rates. An ongoing T4 Life trial is also addressing the same question of levothyroxine treatment in euthyroid antibody positive women. Taking the evidence so far, a Cochrane review published in 2019 took into account 4 studies. The tablet study was not available at that time, but what they found was there was a benefit of treatment with levothyroxine in women who had subclinical hypothyroidism, whether or not they had TPO antibody positivity. But those who were euthyroid without antibody positivity, there was no benefit in live birth rate or in miscarriage rate. So Dr. Dossio has recently proposed a model of, how thyroid autoimmunity might be affecting fertility. In early stages of thyroid autoimmunity, possibly these women have normal reserves of thyroid function, such that there is just a local immune reaction, which does not respond to levothyroxine therapy. At more advanced stages of thyroid autoimmunity, these women also tend to have a low thyroid hormone environment, such that a suboptimal free T4 for pregnancy increases their risk further of subfertility, and these are the women likely to benefit from levothyroxine therapy. So this, in a way, is reflected in the ATA or ASRM guidelines. They recommend that there is insufficient evidence that we should be universally screening with TSH for all women planning a pregnancy, but those who are undergoing assisted reproductive technology or who already have high risk of thyroid dysfunction or have known TPO antibody positivity, a screening prior to pregnancy planning is warranted. Overt hypothyroidism and subclinical hypothyroidism should be treated to a target TSH of less than 2.5, but for TPO antibody positive euthyroid women, treatment should be considered on a case-to-case basis. Now, so in a nutshell, women with subfertility or recurrent miscarriages should be screened for thyroid dysfunction. Overt and subclinical hypothyroidism are likely to have benefits in fertility potential, but the relationship of thyroid autoimmunity is less clear. In the last minute or so, I'll just talk quickly about thyroid health and fertility in men. So in men, also thyroid hormones have effects on both the germ cells, Sertoli cells, as well as non-genomic effects in terms of their effect on sperm motility and redox status. Men with hyperthyroidism demonstrate decrease in sperm number and sperm motility, as well as reduced semen volume, while in hypothyroid men, there is a reduction in normal sperm morphology. So major factor which is affected in hypothyroidism is sperm morphology and a reduction in semen volume. Most of these changes are reversible with restoration of euthyroid state. When it comes to thyroid cancer and radioactive ablation, we do not have much data on the impact of radioiodine therapy on long-term health, though there are studies that reassure that fertility and miscarriage rates are not affected in either men or women who have been treated with radioiodine therapy, but data on high cumulative doses of beyond 400 micrograms are still lacking. So with that, I'd like to conclude. Thank you so much.